Hey, 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 happy Thursday, and welcome to our next episode of Hope Connects. I am so blessed to have two amazing guests with me today as we are sharing Hope Shares the gift of organ, eye, tissue donation. So, if you guys have not heard, August is National Minority Donor Awareness Month, and we are just sharing information and education about the need for donation amongst people of color. And so I am blessed to have someone that I awesomely call friend, Brian, and his friend Angel, and they're going to talk about just the gift of life through living donation. So, Brian, if you will, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself and how you know Angel.
Okay. As you said, I'm Brian. I'm 32 years old. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I currently reside in Columbia, South Carolina. And I met Angel through one of my close friends. He is a musician friend of mine, and she is his wife. So that's how I know Angel.
Oh, that's so cool. Listen, that's absolutely positively amazing. So Ryan, tell us a little about like your journey before transplantation and just kind of about your diagnosis for kidney failure and just kind of how you kind of got to the place where you had to ask for a need for a donation.
Okay. So there are several different types of breakdowns in our kidney function. My specific case was CKD or chronic kidney disease. Of course, there's, like I said, a few different types. There's polycystic kidney issues, a whole host of them. Mine was CKD. I was diagnosed at the age of 20, so about 12 years ago. Um, what happened was I went to my family doctor for a regular checkup, and it
Mhm.
was found that I had increased levels of protein in my urine. That prompted him to set me up with a nephrologist who confirmed that I had, in fact, um, been, I guess, diagnosed with CKD. Um, and actually, having been diagnosed, I carried that diagnosis for, I guess, about maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And what happened was over those years, the nephrologist just watched my kidney function to be certain that I stay above a certain level. Because what happens is when your kidney function reaches, and every nephrologist is different. Some will make you get on dialysis when you get to 18% function or lower. Some will
Okay.
say 15% function or lower. And to be truthful, at this moment, I don't remember if I was at 18 or 15, but I was low enough where I needed to move from just being diagnosed with CKD to being a dialysis patient. And I
Wow.
did dialysis for about 3 or 4 years. And on that time, or during that time, I was putting the word out that I needed a kidney transplant. And of course, I was telling my friends and my family. And of course, among those friends was O'Shea, who is Angel's husband. And she heard and she offered. And to be truthful, because so many people tend to hear that and they want to be nice and say, "Oh, I would give you a kidney." She said that, and I honestly didn't take it very seriously. And I don't
Wow.
know if Angel remembers this, but she actually kind of offered twice, if you would. The first time I kind of brushed it off, and I hate to say insisted, but she mentioned it again. I was serious about the fact that I would be willing to donate, and she was. And she went through the whole process to be screened, and it turns out that she was a perfect match.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
Wow. So Angel, let's talk a little about just your desire or your heart to give. Like what influenced your heart and just your spirit to say you were willing to be tested and to give the gift of life? Like what inspired you to do that?
Well, for me, it was a whirlwind of emotion and thought into the entire process. Just knowing Brian for that short amount of time with O'Shea, I just knew how close they were and I knew how much it affected both of them on how serious the matter was. So I did offer, and he was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then, like a year later, we came back on the topic again. I was like, okay, yeah, I meant it. So I had a lot of family question why I would want to do something like that when my husband could possibly want one. or my children, or possibly I could go into kidney failure. So I prayed over it over and over again before I actually went through with it. And I said, Lord, if I am 100% a match with absolutely no complications, then I know this is meant to be. And I had a huge team. They were super great. They assured me every time I went in, okay, you're not obligated to do this. You could drop out at any time. And every time I went, I prayed, God, if I am 100% a match with absolutely no complications, then I know this is meant to be. So after I had all of my testing done, my advocate called me and she told me, okay, you have two perfectly healthy kidneys and you are absolutely 100% a match. So that very day, I called Brian to tell him the good news and we went through with it. And almost 2 years later, here we are today.
Oh man, that's so amazing. Listen, when I can't talk about prayer too much because we're here, but I believe that sometimes we ask for a sign. We want to be clear, we want to be sure. And a lot of times people have hesitations because they don't think that if they give the gift, that life can still be beautiful after. And so if you don't mind sharing, tell us a little about your journey. I know we're talking 2 years later, so congrats to 2 years after transplantation. Thank you, 2 years after donation. Let's talk about how has life been different for both of you since donation. So let's start with Angel. So tell me a little. I know your family had a little hesitation, like they were afraid maybe you would need it or your husband, but how has life been since the gift, giving the gift of donation?
Life for me has been pretty much the same. I haven't had any complications afterwards other than from the surgery. And that was just surgery wise, not kidney wise. I just had problems with some of the stitches. My biggest worry afterwards was being able to have more children because I had one previously
Okay.
and I was really young. I was like 21 when I donated. So I was like, okay, I'm super young. It's very complicated for pregnancy afterwards. So that was my biggest worry. But of course, I said I prayed and prayed, and I knew that it was meant to be, and I was going to be fine. And I am actually 30 weeks pregnant now. So
Yay!
I will be able to continue growing my family, and I have absolutely no other complications otherwise.
Oh man, that's so amazing. Well, congratulations on your new bundle of joy. I believe that you will have an amazing pregnancy and all will be well, and your family will continue to grow and grow, and you can have 5, 6 kids if you would like. I mean, whatever, Brian, look, whatever it says, seed in the ground, whatever you want to do, just multiply that seed. That's amazing. So, Brian, that's amazing. That makes my heart smile because a lot of times, especially people of color, they are afraid of giving the gift because of life after the gift, especially for living donation. So, Brian, tell me a little about how has life been different for you after transplantation?
Okay. Um, well, in order for me to talk about the after, let me briefly talk about before. Before before transplant, truthfully, my life was how would I describe it? I wouldn't say it was complicated, but it was a lot more hectic. Of
Okay.
course, with contending with dialysis, that was always a very daunting task. First, it was 3 days a week. And if anybody that may be watching this has ever been on or is currently on dialysis, you know that it is it takes up your whole life. It kind of permeates the ground of all of your thoughts. Every
Mm,
decision that you make is kind of centered around
dialysis.
dialysis being the crux of all of it.
Wow.
Um, Whether you want to travel or what you wear, what you eat, what you drink, how much you drink, which is, of course, is a very big deal. Your weight, all of it is centered around dialysis. So post transplant,
Excuse me.
there is of course, obviously, a huge weight lifted, and there is a newfound freedom that you almost forget that you have.
Wow.
You get your life back. But for me, and this may be, I guess, more personal than not, but for me, I guess the challenge, if there were to be any, would be finding yourself after not having such a huge piece of your person, because dialysis became, who I was. So now that that big space is free in my life, it's now kind of still filling that hole, if you will, with other parts of myself, or coming into those other parts of myself now that I don't have dialysis to fill all of that up.
Understand. Well, I know that because I know you personally, I know that you're a musician. So I know that you can find a great sacred space in music. And I'm just blessed to know you guys and be able to kind of share that part of the experience, because I think because I've known you through that journey, like I know how, like you said, it kind of succumbs or consumes your every kind of decision. And so now, like you said, that you have that freedom, hopefully you can do more, all of the things that you hope and dream for. So there are two things. We're almost done, and I am so grateful that you guys are spending time with me. Let's talk, Angel. If you could encourage our community about just the big ask, or being willing to give the gift of life, or registering to be a donor, what would you say? Or could you give our community some inspiring words?
Okay, my take on it is I feel like with going to get tested to be a living donor, there's no harm in getting tested because, like I said, my entire team always assured me that if it ever scared me too much to where I didn't feel like I could go through with it, I always had that option. So there's never any harm in going to get tested if you want to, and there shouldn't be a fear that just because you're getting something taken away and someone else is getting something from you doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to do it.
Gotcha.
And I feel like everyone should at least consider being a donor, because you never know whose life you could save with that little thing that you took for granted.
Absolutely. I tell people that I call myself the miracle worker, right? And I tell them that saying yes to donation, or even considering being a donor, is like miracle working. And so whenever I'm in the community, I tell people that I'm a miracle worker, because hopefully one day I'll be able to give the gift of life and be a miracle worker for someone else. And so, Brian, last one, absolutely not least, if you could give us some inspiring words on how we can encourage our community to say yes to donation and to consider being a living donor or a deceased donor, or just saying yes to just the possibility of giving the gift of organized tissue donation, what would you say to our community?
I would say that we first have to take the stigma out of it and take the fear out of it. And I can say that firsthand because, of course, naturally before coming, or crossing paths with Angel, and let me just say, if it wasn't clear, Angel volunteered to do this. This was not something I asked her to do. I never asked Angel to do this. This was something that she fully volunteered to do. And that goes back into what I was starting my statement off with. There is no fear in a willingness to try. Of course, like for me, there were several family members that I had conversations with who wanted to do it, but they could not do it because they had underlying health disparities themselves. So let me just curtail there and say that you have to be of optimal health in order to be considered. Most of the donating centers around the country have very rigorous requirements for persons that want to donate any organs. So of course you want to be in a top-notch condition physically, but taking the fear out of it, as I was saying, taking the stigma out of it. Because as Angel said, you're not losing anything by finding out if you can do it. If it's someone in your life that has a need, and especially if you know that you're fairly healthy, you don't have anything to lose. It's literally that they're going to check your blood, and they're going to cross it against the person in need. So you don't lose anything. So to sum all of that up, I would say if you know that someone has a need, you don't lose anything by considering being a donor. And if you're a match, then that's all the more better. The person that is in need, I'm sure they'll be eternally grateful, and you will feel a sense of benevolence for having been able to do something so life-saving as being a donor for somebody who might otherwise not have had a chance at a full and productive life.
Absolutely. So as we come to a close, August is National Minority Donor Awareness Month, and we are sharing hope. We're having a virtual hope walk. So I want to encourage both of you, Angel and Brian, to walk sometime this week and share with your friends that you are walking in honor of the gift of donation. And we just want to encourage people around the state of South Carolina to say yes to donation and to say yes to the amazing gift of organized tissue donation. So again, thank you guys so much for being a part. Thank you guys for being gift givers. Thank you for being a miracle worker, Angel. Thank you guys for just spending time with us again. So if you are joining for the very first time, thank you for joining with We Are Sharing Hope Connects. My name is Edlina Smith Butler, and it has been my pleasure to be your host today. So again, thank you guys so much for staying with us, and have a great day.